Hello everyone, welcome to the session. I'm going to talk about Microsoft Graph Toolkit. Am I audible, Jankin?
Yeah,
Yes, yes,
Yeah,
sir.
yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that confirmation. So, hello audience, welcome to the session. In this session, I'm going to talk about Microsoft Graph Toolkit. What is it? How we are going to use it? And where and all we can use Microsoft Toolkit. So let me introduce myself. I am Radhakrishnan Govindan, also known as RK. I have a 13 plus years experience in IT. I'm working as a Microsoft consultant in one of the company in India. uh, so I'm doing my authoring, technical writing on my own website called windowstechpro.com. Apart from that, I a little bit contribute on C# Corner or Microsoft websites whenever I'm getting a time. So if you want to reach me, you can reach me on my Twitter handler @softkrishnan.com. So today's agenda, we are going to talk about what is in the Microsoft Toolkit, why we need to use it, and also what is the components, providers, and templates available in the Microsoft Toolkit. So before I'm touching my Microsoft Graph Toolkit, let me talk about what is Microsoft Graph. As I already spoke about this in my multiple sessions. Again, once again, I wanted to introduce so that you will be having knowledge what is this graph and why Microsoft introduced Microsoft Toolkit, which will help where it will help people, right? So basically, Microsoft Graph is a RESTful API which will help us to connect with Microsoft cloud solution and get the data or whatever you wanted to manipulate. Say example, if you want to get a data of Azure Active Directory or get a data from the Teams SharePoint side, right? If you normally in olden era, what we will do, we will use PowerShell commandlets or in the GUI to get the data from SharePoint and Azure Active Directory, all those things, right? After that, when cloud era begin and cloud era become major in the it created major impact in the market, right? Larger companies, like if the company has more than 2 lakh employees or 3 lakh employees, when you running a query against Azure Active Directory using PowerShell, it will take a longer time to give the report. Why? Because it's a normal connection. It will use your credentials to connect to Azure Active Directory and get the data. So Microsoft understood that pain area for the companies and the tenants, whatever being hosted out of Microsoft Cloud. So that is where Microsoft Graph has been introduced to reduce the timeline, also give a report in the faster manner. So say how it gives, right? By default, all your PowerShell connections doing a normal authentication, getting a report, right? Graph Explorer uses the Graph, RESTful HTTPS API connection to the Microsoft Cloud and get the report. It will be very faster in connectivity and give the reporting solution. That is where Graph is become major, majorly used in all the companies wherever required, and all the Microsoft 365 cloud platforms right now. We can able to connect using my Graph API and get the report. So example, this is the Graph Explorer, the Graph Explorer GUI method. How we can get the data? You can go to you can use the ak.ms/ge, which take you to the Graph Explorer, or else you can go to developer.microsoft.com and you can click the Graph Explorer and connect to the GUI method. Once you connected, you can log into the Graph Explorer. Once you logged in, you can go and get the data. Say example, if you want to get your own data, you can go ahead and get your own data like this. And there are two different interconnect versions. One is beta and version 1.0. Version 1.0 will be having limited attribute set, which will give you the results in here. If you use beta version, you will get complete data of your particular query. So this is how we can go ahead and connect the Graph Explorer using GUI method. And if you want to get all those things, like you want to see mails, right? If you want to see mails, you can go ahead and call your mails, right? It will display all your mails here. It will be in the JSON format. You can get it and validate if you want. So this is how developers normally will validate, or also IT professionals will validate particular user attributes and particular employee details. And based on the permission set, you can extend your queries. Increasing your permission levels. You no need to have a initial itself complete permission. Whenever you're running a query, if you want to get a basic details, you can be consented with particular information only. If you want to increase more, or like you want to write something on the mailbox, then only you can go ahead and consent for it. This is how you can limit your consent against Microsoft workload using the Graph Explorer, right? Same method we can use it using a PowerShell. Let me show you the PowerShell version of connectivity. So in PowerShell also same way we can connect Microsoft workloads using the graph. How you can connect, right? You have to create a client tab and client secret, which I'm going to explain in later in this session. So once you go ahead and get the token, you can pass it to Graph Explorer, or you can use that token. You can use the token and call the API URLs and get the user data. So example, in this case, what I'm doing, I have a client ID, tenant ID, client secret. I'm running a commandlet like this, which gives me Azure Active Directory, gives me a token. This token is valid token from the Azure Active Directory. Using the token, I can go and talk to the tenant, tenant using the permission which has been provided for the client ID, right? So right now, consider this app, what I've registered in this particular tenant as a privilege to get the user basic information, right? So what I can do, I can go ahead and run this commandlet. What exactly it does, it goes to the Microsoft Graph URI and get the data. This is same as it is like Graph Explorer. This is another version to connect to Microsoft workloads using Graph calls, Graph API calls. So now, if you see in both ways, one is Graph, another one is Graph Explorer. We are using it to call the to get the information from Azure Active Directory, right? Consider right now you are a developer and you creating a web application. Okay, in web application you want to call Azure Active Directory to populate user information. Consider, as Jenkin mentioned it in introduction, you creating one PO module. Okay, in PO module by default, if you are querying Azure, anybody logging in, there should be the creator, right? Those information you wanted to populate in your application, right? If you want to populate that application, you should connect Azure Active Directory first. Then only you can get it. In normal days, in olden era, what we will do, we will store that information in your application database. What you will do, you will get the data from Azure Active Directory. You will delta it into your application database, right? Who is logging in? You will do the LDAP query again the database, and you will fill that information, right? So consider this application running out of SharePoint Online. Now, if you're getting the data from your on-premises and filling, it will take huge lot of time, right? So this is how Microsoft again wanted to fulfill this information, fulfill this gap using the Graph API call itself. So that is where Microsoft Toolkit has been introduced. How it works, right? If you see using this call, see you creating web. uh, Okay, so if you have any questions, right now I'm using a single monitor. That's why I'm not able to see your questions. Please keep on, mentioning in the comment section. Once I completed, probably I will answer all of your questions. Okay, so consider you creating a web, a web page, or you're creating a project, which has which has HTML tags right now. Okay, once you created a HTML tags, you wanted to insert grab calls, right? You can insert it. Let me talk all those components and providers later. I wanted to tell you how it works wonderfully using your web calls. Okay, so consider this is a web page I've created, and if you see, this web page is running out of my system. Okay, out of my system using a local host. So yeah, this is a web page I created. It is saved as index.html. Okay, when I am trying to open this web page, mm, 1 minute. It's already open. Let me close it. Why am I opening in incognito mode? Because I wanted to keep a separate access token and the data in this. That's why. So let me load it again. If you see, consider this is your web page. Sorry for this. If you are a developer, you will get angry on me, because what is this web page? Is it really web page, right? So consider this is for a demo. So that is why I kept it very simple in manner. So this is for the this is HTML tags. If you see, I have added this HTML tags all over here. That is why it is coming here. If you see, there are no data populated, right? No data available right now. We only sign in option is there, right? Once I sign in, it is going to Azure Active Directory, and it is asking me login credentials. I'm just filling it. See this, it was a previously normal page. Once I signed it in, the informations are getting populated. Say example, it is showing me who logged in and about me, and what is the mails available in my mailbox, and what is the agenda which is available in calendar, and also people picker. Here I can search my Azure Azure Active Directory or Exchange Online gal, and see the peoples over here, right? How this is happening, right? In backend, it is a completely grab call. Okay, is it wonderful? If you are using olden methods, this should give you very easy method to fill your user data using the normal grab calls. Okay, so what is how it is happening? You have not filled anything in previous methods. If you see here, I'm keying a client ID, client secret, I'm telling what is my tenant and all, right? Here I'm not telling anything apart from my the client ID. By default, using this client ID, using the login credentials, what I am logging in, it is going and fetching the information. Okay, so here let me go and explain what is it and how it is loading that. Right. So it is loading using this loader. This is called Graph Toolkit. Okay, so now I'm going to tell you what is Graph Toolkit. Okay, Graph Toolkit is nothing but it is a reusable web components which you can integrate on using your own projects. If you are creating a project on JavaScript or Node.js or ASP.NET, whatever code levels you are using, right? This reusable codes is you can use these codes all over your applications, and you can call the graph, and you can connect to Microsoft cloud workloads and take the actions, right? How it is happening? This is the URI, which is this is the URL which is having this JavaScript. So by default, this is the HTML tags. That is why I'm filling a JavaScript. Okay, JavaScript is calling that graph toolkit and filling this information. whatever I'm calling, it is taking from there. Okay. If you are using npm modules, right? Graph Toolkit is available using npm modules also. If you want, you can go ahead and see here under this toolkit. Micro, in, Microsoft Graph is graphs for your npm toolkit as well. So this is the npm module, how you can install using it. I am using a javascript because it's a web based query what I'm doing right now using my Visual Studio codes, right? If you are using different methods, you can use these modules and connect it. It supports all all major uh, your developing languages like Node.js or different language Angulars and all, right? It supports for it, you can use it. So in right now for testing purpose, what I've taken web-based calls to call, use the Graph Toolkit. Okay. So now what I'm doing, this is the toolkit where this, data, Graph components available. So I've connected to that. After that, what I'm doing, I am providing the providers. Okay, provided information. Let me talk a little bit deeper. What is this providers, right? Providers are nothing but the authentication and the data which laid there, and you are connecting to that based on your permissions given. Say example, you have your there are multiple providers. Say example, Azure Active Directory. It is used the MSOL provider. Okay, you can MSOL provider connect to Azure Active Directory. Under that, you can go ahead and get all the information whatever available. If you have a SharePoint, there is a SharePoint providers which you can go ahead and connect, you can use that, and you can connect to SharePoint based queries and do the activities under that. So there are different type of providers. You can use it using the Graph Toolkit. It supports for all these major versions, right? In this testing purpose, what I've done, I'm using a MSOL provider. If you are using, you can ask me, can't I use multiple providers? It supports. You can use multiple providers, and also depend on. You can use a one provider depend on another provider. For example, you can use my MSOL provider for authentication and the Teams provider for getting the data out of the Teams provider. Right, those things you can do it. After you connecting to that providers, you will be getting the user information. If you see here, I'm going to the user and getting that user, right? I'm talking about this particular information, right? This is called components. So under these providers, all these components are available. Okay, there are multiple components which is available in which is available in toolkit, that you can go ahead and validate here in the Microsoft website itself. Here there are a lot of components which is available based on the query. I will explain each one here how we can use it. It's not a big it's not a big theory. It's a simple command what you need to execute. Being an IT developer, I'm able to create it, right? The same way you as a you can go ahead and integrate all your applications. Okay. So here if you see, I'm connecting this provider, and then I'm telling about me. Okay, this about me is the property of this component. Again, once again, I'm telling this is the loader where toolkit is available, and I am connecting to the provider where I am getting authenticated and getting the authorization token. Once I got the authorization token, I'm going to inside that, and I'm getting the components like a person is a component. I'm going to get this component. Under that component, I'm calling about me, the property of that. Okay, this is how the toolkit has been defined in a very structured manner. And this command lets us, if you see, I'm not loading anything, I have not installed any other apart from this calling scripts and adding this command lets, right? I'm not doing anything else apart from this. Okay, and then what I'm doing, and each component Each component, what I'm doing, I'm going to get what and all details I wanted to get it. If you see here, the person I'm calling as a component, I wanted to see my profile. Then what I'm doing, I'm using a get method. Okay, get method means I'm going to my mailbox. I wanted to see my mails, right? Then what I do, I will write these codes here in the method, component get. I'm going for the resources under messages. As I mentioned here, the messages. This in Graph Explorer you will mention like this. In the PowerShell you will mention complete URL, right? In the toolkit, you if you mention like this, it will go and get the mails or based on your query, right? What I'm doing, I'm getting mails under my mailbox, maximum pages of 2, and I will get the mails over here. Same like this. If you see, these are all the mails. Since it is a test tenant, what I've created for this bootcamp, I don't have more mails in this mailbox, but right now I have only few mails. Okay. Then next component, what I'm using is agenda component. Okay, how agenda component is being used, right? Agenda component is one of the component which is connecting again same provider under the ID what I'm going to get it. Okay, what I mentioned, get the agenda of me. Okay, so here if I go and get the agenda of me, it is going and fetching all the agendas or calendar set in my Outlook mailbox, right? All these informations are given using the toolkit connecting through graph or to Microsoft 365 workloads. What you need to initially to do this, let me show you quick demo. What first we need to do this kind of things, right? First, what you have to do, you have to register an application in Azure Active Directory. Here under the Azure Active Directory, you need to register application under app registrations. So initially I have registered an application, right? Same way what you can do, you can go ahead and register your own application. Consider grab_1, and I'm making as a multi-tenant for now. This is for the testing purpose. So, and also what I'm doing, the written URI, what I'm filling here for just testing purpose, I'm filling localhost :5500. Okay, I'm registering this application. Okay, so once you register application, this is the client ID. And this is the client ID what we need to use to connect to Graph. Okay, and then this is the directory you need to mention. If you are using a toolkit, you no need to fill this information since it is automatically filled once you are logging in. But if you are developing inside more specific, more realistic websites, probably if you are getting Windows integrated credentials and all, right, you can definitely go ahead and fill this tenant information also under this MSolve provider, and you can mention here the tenant information so that the query will be specific to this tenant, right? Once you got this, what you need to do, right? You need to set the permissions, what you need to give privilege for this app. By default, app will not be able to get the all the information. As I likely I mentioned it, Graph will be having limited privilege. Once you created, you can go ahead and increase the permissions for your Graph calls based on your requirement. For example, right now I want to get only user related information, right? You can go ahead and select the user related permissions. So example, you wanted you creating application, this application going to be used only one of the development team. They are going to read only attributes from Azure Active Directory. Means what you can do, you can limit certain permissions only. So later on when they try, for example, this application is being set with read only, user read all permission, right? If this permission only set for this application, when this developer using this hey, client id, if they are calling to this, right, they will not be able to get other than user read permissions. If they wanted to more privilege, they have to get consent from the administrator. What you need to do, you have to go ahead and grant the permission again, and you need to give the consent. As a same like this, it will come here. What you have to do, you have to go ahead as an administrator, you know, to give the consent for that application. Okay, once you given the consent, by default that application what you registered, they can use this complete permission to get the information based upon the permission what you set, right? Once you registered application and you given a permission, right, what we need to do, we have to create a security secret key. The secret key mainly used when using the grab call using powershell method. Okay, so you can use this graph, you can create a client secret here. This secret valid for certain amount of time. You can select based on your requirement. Okay, if you are creating one of the application which is the project is going to end next couple of next maximum 1 year, right? You can select only 1 year. Or if the project is going to run for next couple of next 2 years, right? You can select 2 years. If it is longer duration, you can select the never expire. So what does it mean, right? By default, security folks, they will not allow you to create never expiring secret key because it's a security concern, right? So you can select 1 year of the key so that the permission, the secret key, client secret will be valid for maximum 1 year. Next time when they try after that 1 year, they will get an error telling that that secret key, client secret has been expired. Then they will again reach Azure Active Directory team, they will get this token. It is all possible using this. So once it is done, so what is specifically required for the toolkit, right? The toolkit required the two things. Let me tell you, API permission, where it is. The toolkit, what toolkit you are using, right? The toolkit is required this two permission. Why? Because the toolkit is using in the backend, using the web calls, right? Or your project calls based on your languages, right? So what it has to do, by default, Azure Active Directory will not authenticate users without any authentication token or access token. So what we need to do for the toolkit specific, we need to give these two things so that you will get the access token in the backend and also ID tokens. What is ID tokens means? I'm logging in. If you see, I'm logging in this, right? Once I logging in, this is the ID what I'm using for the logging into the website, right? Once this logged in, the ID token will be passed against all my other queries. It will not again and again. It won't ask you the tokens. Okay, that is why the graph is specific to this, and you can select this ID token so that the once user logged in, next time whatever query is expanding here, right? So here, if I'm expanding something like this, it will not ask for any tokens. By default, the toolkit will keep the token what you shared in that initially. Then the token is getting passed across. You have any questions right now? Exactly. Sumit, you are right that the token will be given against the redirect URI. As I mentioned earlier, by default, if you go to the Azure Active Directory, you mentioning the URI, redirect URLs. Okay, the token will be passed against this URL. If you are using different URL or you are not mentioning anything here, redirect URLs, right? It will not happen. No, Microsoft Graph, you can use complete Azure, complete Microsoft 365 workloads. It is not specific to Azure Active Directory. You can